How's it going, guys? Welcome to this breakout episode of the Two Penny Games cast, or Two Penny Games review, where we're doing the Shadow of the Erdtree review. I am Phil. I'm your host for this lovely video here with the Shadow of the Erdtree lead reviewer, Connor Elliott. How you doing today?
Also, FromSoft, Shill, and I'm doing good today. I was, just before this, playing Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree.
You don't say?
Yes, because I still haven't beaten it. Why?
Neither have I.
Yes. Well, in my case, it's because I'm at the final boss. Safe to say, it's very, very hard. Some might say too hard, weaklings. At the same time, though, I don't know where Phil is. We hadn't talked about that. Where are you in the DLC?
We'll get right into that as soon as I finish introing this lovely review. Of course, you can check us out here on, right now we're live on twitch.tv/TwoPennyGames, but this is also a video going on the back of you and Tavin doing the Two Penny Games cast episode, I believe 205 this week?
207.
207, oh shit.
Yes, it's gotten high.
Well, anyway, yeah, getting real close to that anniversary, that 4-year anniversary. I believe that's next week, if my math is correct.
Wait, it might be longer. I have Tavin in my ear telling me
50. It'd be 52, then 104, then 156, and then 208.
And I don't know if the numbers work out that way because I'm bad at math, but I guess I can just assume yes, it is.
As far as episode numbers go, that's mathematically correct. Yeah, but anyway, check out all of our links in the description below, and if you're coming off the Two Penny Games cast, hope you liked it. Hope you enjoyed it. Strap in for another roughly hour or so while we just kind of talk about Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. To answer your question, Connor, I am, let's see, the furthest boss I've beaten was Renala.
Oh, okay. I think it's R'Lana.
R'Lana.
Yeah, because Renala's
Renala's the one from the base game. R'Lana is the okay. That's right. That's right.
They're
the
sisters.
Dual wielding. She's got the blue sword and the red sword.
Yes, and so you did beat her, or you're at her?
I am sorry. I don't know if I said I beat her. I have not beaten her. Okay. That's where I am.
I just didn't hear you because I'm me. But that is a hard boss. Is it the hardest boss?
She is very difficult.
Yes. It is. Yes, not the hardest one. So good luck when you find out who is the hardest one.
Well, I already know who it is. That was the first thing that was spoiled for me, like literally like 2 days into the DLC.
Damn.
Unfortunately. But you know, we'll get into spoilers eventually. But for right now, you're safe.
Good.
But you know, we'll make that clear distinction when we do start talking about spoilers. But Connor, how have you been liking Shadow of the Erdtree, my man?
Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree is a masterpiece. I remember there was the previous comments from the director, Miyazaki, who was saying it's about the size of the first part of the base game, an area called Limgrave. And so it's going to be, I think the time was given like 25 hours to beat the whole thing. And one of the first things the reviews talked about was how that was a lie. This is a game that I spent I'm still in the process of playing it, but I've so far spent 51 hours on the DLC alone. I take it slow, just like how I did in the base Elden Ring game, which is what this game is obviously working off of. It has everything that Elden Ring does, but is able to build on top of itself. One of the main ways this is done, aside from, of course, the new area and the new enemies, which is pretty much standard, is the new weapons. They added entirely new weapons that weren't in the original game, such as backhand blades for all those Dex users. All of these, of course, have their own unique moveset. The addition of light greatswords, version of which you can dual wield them, which are somewhere in between a regular straight sword, kind of using its speed with a bit more damage, but not as much damage as the greatsword, though it is getting the same amount of reach. You also have things like fisticuffs, claws in some cases, but really, if you're a true gamer, you'd go hand to hand, because that's untrue. That's me projecting. Anyway, point is, there's lots of different new weapons in this game, and they each feel unique, and that's not even touching on all of the other ones the game has to offer, based off of weapon types the original game has, but with their own unique skills. Some of them have their own unique, attack animations. All in all, it just adds so much more ways for you to take part in the combat, which I think in the base game of Elden Ring is already pretty great. I've always enjoyed the flow of combat in Souls games, and it seems like they almost get better with each and every single entry, and even that's viewable in this DLC. Another thing that had been in the news is that there was the magnum opus from FromSoft has yet to be made, and Shadow of the Erdtree just gets that next step closer to it. Every single boss feels like a hurdle to overcome, and when you're not having a wide array of bosses to go off of like you would in base Elden Ring, each one is really felt. It does kind of fall into the caveat of a lot of the bosses you get through exploring can be repeat ones of enemies you fought maybe in the base game, maybe in the DLC itself, which with as much stuff as they offer, I see at the end of the day as being justified due to the rewards that you usually get, which can be those weapons I was talking about earlier, or even simple things like armor sets, which, if you're a FromSoft fan like me, I just love collecting the armor sets in games. And this one has some pretty cool ones as well. Visually, the game looks amazing. It has a opening shot when you first exit out of your cave that you get teleported to, and it made me sit there and look at it for a couple of seconds. Past FromSoft games had the legitimate criticism thrown at them that it can be kind of, a lot of the same colors, a lot of muted dark browns and whatnot. Elden Ring squashed that. Shadow of the Erdtree even more. It just uses lighting in an ethereal way that sets it apart from all of the other areas that you go in base Elden Ring. And I keep bringing up base Elden Ring because it's pretty amazing to have something and that was already, in my mind, a masterpiece, and tweak it in small ways, but in ways that just make it even better.
Real quick, just kind of touch on like the visuals of this. Like that opening shot you were just talking about, it threw me right back into that first time I finished the intro to Ghost of Tsushima, and you're running through and you get all those flowers around you. That's exactly what it reminded me of.
Good.
Replace some of those flowers with like headstones, and it's a little more grim and dour, but in its own way, still beautiful. And then also, I wanted to, for still on visuals here, I wanted to shout out I think it's the Azure Coast or something like that. It's like the really blue flower area.
Cerulean
Coast.
Yes.
Cerulean. Fucking gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous. That's probably my favorite like area of this game to like just look at.
Oh, definitely. I mean, that happens multiple areas in the game, even though it all, takes place in the Shadow Realm, it has, similar to the original Elden Ring game, different areas that all look different. And it still keeps that tone of, since you're being in the Shadow Realm, it's kind of darker in the sense of it's always seeming like dusk, never really bright sunlight that you're seeing, except in one area of the game. An area that you hadn't gotten to yet, but it's a nice change of pace when you're seeing all of these more muted colors. Muted in the sense of it's not as like, that's a bad word to use because it still just looks like it uses color to the utmost in each and every single area you go to. Yeah. Visuals out of this world.
To talk about weapons, you mentioned the light greatsword. I'm using the heavy katana. I've been experimenting with that.
Yes, I forgot about that.
That one I'm having a really good time with. I think it's like the Dragon's Bane heavy katana or something like that.
Yeah.
That one's been really, really fun for me. It's got a really cool weapon art that I like a lot. I've tried, I haven't really put that much time into trying the backhand blades like you were talking about. I think Dex is my highest stat. Because I was a dual katana build in the base Elden Ring. My main thing was I was Dex. I have intelligence and arcane for my like dragon spells, like my dragon head spells and all that. But yeah, I would dual katana. I would use Rivers of Blood, so like I would use the Scarlet Rot dragon head and then put bleed on them too for like the double proc going on there. And I had a blast in the base game, and I'm having a blast in Shadow of the Erdtree. I'm like you. I would also call this DLC a masterpiece. This is just an incredible experience. Probably one of the best DLCs I've ever played. It's just insane, like just how vast the area is. It feels like it's even larger than Limgrave, to be honest.
Oh, it's larger. Yeah.
Like,
sorry to keep cutting you off.
No, go ahead. No, I was pretty much, I was like that. I was kind of throwing that to you. It feels like it's larger than Limgrave. You know, like
I had seen some images of this of the Shadow Realm over Limgrave, and that was one of the ways people were saying that Miyazaki was a liar, because it is clearly bigger. It is not the same size. In fact, it's more comparable to the map of Elden Ring than it is to just that one area. You know, seriously, it's amazing that even in just 2 years they were able to make that big of an area with this much stuff.
The inverse of like when people were mad at Game Freak about like not having all the Pokemon. Game Freak lied. This one's Miyazaki lied, but it's in a good way. Like,
oh yeah,
it's even larger.
Very few people, I think, would ever find themselves complaining about what was done here. It is
absolutely
to what you said earlier. I think it is. It's the best FromSoft DLC, to be sure. Its best contender was the Old Hunters DLC back in Bloodborne days, but, and I'm biased because I think Elden Ring overall is a better game than Bloodborne, which is a pretty good feat in and of itself. But it topped it with the DLC being better than that Old Hunters one. As a whole, though, it also still is in, the contender for the best DLC ever made. On critic sites, Metacritic specifically, I know it's the highest rated so far. Of course,
DLC
take that with a
in
grain of
general?
salt. Yeah. Last I checked, it could, of course, gotten some points deducted. Originally, I believe it was the Blood and Wine DLC. It was, because CD Projekt Red congratulated them after they had overcome that. Like I said, of course, though, could have changed. But
wow, that's crazy. For me, it's definitely standing up there, like easily top 5. I don't know if I would say top 3. But yeah, it's up there. I think I still have some like fondness for like Tiny Tina's Assault on Dragon Keep and like the Citadel DLC for Mass Effect. But I'd say this is probably like top 3 DLCs for me.
It'd be hard to not
think. There's so much there, and it's so content rich. And you were talking about the claw weapon you can get. I did want to quickly mention there's a little Wolverine Easter egg in like when you acquire those claws. I think is what's the name of the NPC?
Larger?
It's like lore gun or something like that. It's some playoff of Logan, essentially. And it's a shirtless guy with like the Wolverine haircut. And he's got the claws, and he's running around.
Yeah, you had to tell me that.
You just find him in the forest.
Hey, it's fitting for Wolverine, I guess.
I just thought that was really funny.
It was. I wonder how many other references they added in this game. Probably not much, but
that was the only one I really got.
Yeah. I mean, pretty easy one. Wolverine, pretty crosses borders, so we can say. One of the main.
Go ahead. I'll let you finish that point, and then we're gonna cross over into spoilers and talk bosses, I think.
Yes, that'd be good in a second. The big, other than people praising it, the other big conversation about this was the difficulty. It is very hard. At least it's particularly hard at the beginning. Enemies can easily kill you in a couple of hits.
Just regular like Joe Schmo enemies can just fucking wreck you.
Bosses are hard, and like I'm not even going to contest that. They are incredibly hard. But going through the main game is what people were mainly saying was an incredibly hard experience. And it is, but it's not too hard. One of the interesting things that this game offers is a unique upgrade system where you can get up the amount of damage that you can do, getting these things called Erdtree Shadow Tree fragments. You also can get the same thing for your horse combat, though everyone obviously
your,
goes.
Like summons and stuff, right?
Yes, yeah. Oh, is it also for your summons?
I believe it's for your, I believe the ashes help increase the damage for your summons and torrent, while the Shadow Tree fragments just boost you, and they like kind of Do they just boost your damage, or do they also help up your resistance?
Yeah, they do resistance as well. It just
okay.
I always found the most important thing about that was damage. Since
absolutely, I agree. I think hitting your opponent harder is better than tanking hits.
It certainly offsets all of the damage you're taking in turn. Though that kind of becomes less of a thing when you're dealing with the bosses, as you were saying. They just kick your ass, every which way to Sunday.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. But I think, it's hard not to talk about spoilers, since a lot of the meat of this game, when you're really in it, is talking about the bosses specifically, or things that happen in the main narrative. I just caught a light. That's how cool I am. But yeah, was there something? Yeah, it was a very good catch. I'm still holding it. Was there a thing in particular, without spoilers, that was interesting to you about this game? DLC?
Um, other than like what we were already talking about, I don't really see one. I think just like stumbling upon like that opening area and the Cerulean Cove, just evoked a similar feeling to whenever I got teleported to Caelid in the main game. Just like the sheer like just that being in that area, but like a more positive way. Like it was more like, oh my god, I'm in hell now that I'm in Caelid. Whereas getting not teleported, but stumbling upon these other areas with all these nice bright colors and just the beauty, the beautiful like glowing flowers all over the ground is just like so like it's so peaceful.
It is.
There's something so just that's just beautiful about it.
And that's what the open world FromSoft games, the one we have, is really, really good at. Just exploration. Being able to go to just some random location. Maybe you see some interesting landmark on the map. Maybe you don't. Maybe it's still blank because you haven't picked it up yet. And you just have to go and look for things. And to give you a sense of how cool and explorative this game is, one of the final dungeons is the Shadow Keep. And while I'm going through there, I go off to some other, path away from the main one, thinking there's going to be some interesting item, maybe a cool enemy type that might drop something. Who knows? But I go there, and it leads to this giant bridge that goes to another part of the keep. Expecting to be still in the keep, I go to an elevator. I go up the elevator, and then all of a sudden, I'm in this place that's like the ancient kingdom of Rao, or ancient ruins of Rao, or something like that. And it's this. I kind of touched on it a couple minutes ago. It looks different from the rest of the areas in the game, and it's a whole new area. And it made me just go, okay, I guess I'm doing this now. Because I was, like I said, doing one of the main dungeons, and all of a sudden I'm in this new big area that seemingly came out of nowhere. I did not expect to be, to come across that, but like always, it was a nice treat. It just, that's a pretty, big example of the small thing compared to the small things you discover, whether it be weapons, NPCs, and their subsequent quest lines, which additionally, it feeds into the main narrative, and also it feeds into other ways I won't spoil, but the journeys that you go on with your NPC allies, because you're all going on the same mission, it develops in such a great way and culminates in a way that touched my heartstrings. Not in the same way some other games are able to do so, like The Last of Us, because as much as I like FromSoft's writing and the characters within them, they aren't going to elicit the same emotional response as a traditional form of storytelling. And yet, when it came time to engage with these characters in a specific way, it led to one of the best experiences of the DLC. And the DLC just one-ups itself pretty much every step of the way.
Yeah, it just gets more and more and more. Like, yeah, that's very, very, very well said. It does one up itself.
Not even just a matter of quantity, but quality as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of issues you find with games is that they, at some point, they start to falter. Like Resident Evil 4, it's very well regarded. Near the end, you're kind of, okay, you're not going through the most interesting areas anymore.
That third act, yeah.
Yes, exactly. But Elden Ring is, even if it's just a DLC, never makes you feel that way. In fact, it elicited the same response when I was getting closer to the end, which was that I didn't want it to end. I was, part of me was like, Miyazaki, why didn't you put more in this DLC? My greedy side came out. It's not reasonable, but when a game just makes you want more, even after you play 50 hours of it, in a DLC, 50 hours of a DLC, it's a pretty impressive thing. On top of the fact that I had played hours and hours and hours of the base Elden Ring to get to the point where I can access this DLC, and, I never felt burnout. And some games easily could reach burnout by this point, and yet it has that next bit of line to lay down to make you follow, and find whatever is at the end of it.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and let's just start talking bosses.
Yes.
That first one that I ran into, that divine beast dancing lion.
Was that
guy.
the first boss you fought in general?
That was the first one, yeah. So
That's
like,
what it was, yeah.
Not really a boss, but like there's that big like fire basket guy that was walking around.
Yeah,
but,
the
like,
furnace golems.
I wouldn't call. I think that's just a giant enemy. I wouldn't call that a boss.
No, definitely not.
But yeah, the dance, like, as soon as I entered that arena and like started fighting, I was like, oh my god, okay, that's what I'm in for.
Oh yeah,
I don't think I was fully prepared for that. And then it took me a few tries. I don't remember exactly how many because it was like literally the day after the DLC came out. Which I think we're coming up on a month now, right?
Yeah. Well, we're a little bit of ways away from a month, but close enough.
Okay, let me see.
Yeah, because June 21st, like July 21st, will be when we get to the month mark.
Oh my god, you're right, dude. I've got my fucking days all mixed up.
That happens to the best of us.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah,
that was the first one. What did you think of that one?
I fought that boss, and I was like, man, this one's hard. And little did I know, it's not the hardest. But visually, boss fight, the dancing lines, pretty amazing. Some people were, after the fact, finding out that it's a boss with, I don't know if you noticed it, it's two guys in an outfit, essentially. Yeah. People were surprised at that for some reason. It's kind of apparent that it's two guys
it's like one of those one of like the Chinese New Year parade float things, essentially.
And then I think that's clearly what it's kind of basing itself off. It's called Divine Dancing Dragon, and it doesn't even look like a dragon. So I guess it kind of makes sense.
Dancing lion.
Dancing lion. It looks like a lion. You had mentioned before that, you can fight the other boss that kind of took up a lot of the discourse when the game first came out.
Oh, you're talking about the Everjail Knight.
Yes, the Black Jail Knight, I believe.
Is it Black Jail? Okay, you're right. I think it is Black Jail.
Yeah, I think it might be. But a lot of people had trouble with that boss. How was your experience with it?
There was some trouble for sure. But that's whenever I really started to getting into. I started, instead of dual wielding, I started just two-handing the heavy katana, and that's really kind of where I started working, because I got a little more used to just using one hand, like not one-handed, but like two-handing one weapon rather than having two weapons. And so just getting used to that is really what kind of put me over the line on that boss. That like kind of, I guess, like, would you call that like a mini boss or like a
mini boss, side boss? Like, and
side boss, yeah, a boss without a cutscene, essentially.
Yeah, definitely not a main one. But it's interesting you say that, because a lot of the difficulty, I actually had some difficulty with it, but that was really because I was engaged in a all or nothing game with him. Since his build was basically the same as mine, I just didn't have the crossbow, and so it was basically just
the fucking like the semi, like basically automatic crossbow.
Yes, I did not have
crazy.
that, but. Aside from that, I just had big sword and heavy armor with a lot of poise, and so it was really a matter of timing it to just get my attack in right before he did. So it really led to this effectively very brutish dance of a battle between us. Whereas his other people I saw having a lot of trouble with him was ones that weren't able to stagger him as easily, kind of possibly like your katanas. Your dual katanas. And so he would just kind of power through whatever attack they were going with and hit them. And that's how I saw a lot of people die. So it's actually good that you kind of seem to pick the best counter, which is the, two-handed type weapons that you can have access to. The Great Katana, by the way, I said I had forgotten about that weapon type. Really, really cool. Another example of, even though it's just a bigger katana, they added a whole new moveset. It's not just like the curved swords, curved great swords.
I really like the how like you get the big slash, and then you get like a jab. Yeah, and then it's a cross slash. It's really, really cool.
It's good to have pierce. Honestly, pierce and regular, like standard. I think it's called standard damage. Just makes for a good weapon. It's slashing is what you're doing, but I think they designate it as like. No. It's slash. What am I saying? Never mind. Yeah, you're right.
I wasn't sure if I was getting too like D&D into it.
No, you were. I wasn't getting too D&D enough. So
gotcha.
But you were talking about Rolana.
Rolana, yeah. So I still have not beaten the second main boss in this DLC, which is a little disappointing. But it is what it is. I've just mostly just been the majority of my time with this DLC has been exploring, at least since I like got destroyed by Bale the Dread, which is boss we'll talk about later.
Mm-hmm.
Because I actually ran into that one. I think that was the third or fourth like boss enemy I ran into, because like there's just regular enemies that show up with like big health bars on the bottom of your screen. Like I think I ran into a like a demi-human queen, which like it was super easy fight, but for whatever reason it gave it like the boss like health bar at the bottom of the screen for some reason.
Yeah, and that's what they did in the base Elden Ring game. You would just fight enemies that, with the game, the size of it, I see it as kind of a way to get more runes to level up and, and gain access to more of the weapons and spells and whatnot. So they just kind of give you that opportunity to fight a harder enemy than usual that can give you some nice little bonus points. You say demi-human queen. There's a demi-human swordsman. Very cool boss fight. Also,
that one is a cool boss fight.
Yes.
I think that was the third one that I ran into in that cave area.
Yes. Yeah, one of the jails.
That was the third one that I ran into. And then I on the way to fighting this demi-human queen, I ran into another one that was just in the wild. For whatever reason. It didn't seem as difficult as the first one though.
He wasn't named. He didn't have a name.
He was not named. He did not have a name.
But
he was just chilling.
Rolana, have you gotten to the second phase of Rolana?
No.
Ah, damn. See,
he's just fucking stomping me into the dirt.
It's so crazy that you fought Bale before her, or you tried Bale before?
I tried Bale. I have not beaten Bale.
Okay,
I ran into Bale.
Yeah.
And I fought a couple of dragons, but like, just because they have I guess technically like boss, like I don't know what you consider a boss, because like are we considering anything with like a health bar at the bottom a boss?
Yeah, that's what's designated.
Okay, so yeah, then I've beaten there's been a couple dragons that I've beaten like that. There's been the dancing lion, the black jail knight, and then the demi-human swordsman, and then the demi-human queen.
Ah, yeah.
So I guess like I think I'm like 5 or 6 bosses I've beaten. But yeah, Bale immediately fucking the way he just fucking charges you as soon as you walk in, it threw me off. I was like, dude, I couldn't even summon my mimic tier. What the fuck?
And
it's tough.
And you said he rushes you right away. It's especially annoying when you're trying to summon the NPC that you can get from his quest line into that arena. All else, I'm a guy who I only summon for 2 reasons. One, if it's a gank boss fight, I'm gonna go down to your level.
Like the OG Radon, right? Like
yes. Yes, exactly. But the other instances where I do that is when there's a character quest that benefits the game benefits in general from you having him along with the fight. Egon, more than anybody else, I beg you to go do that part of the fight with him there. He takes it from a really, really cool, fun boss fight to one of the most memorable ones in not only Elden Ring but in FromSoft history.
Yeah, you were telling me about this because I didn't realize that you could summon him from inside the arena.
Yeah.
Because like I was looking for something to summon him from outside. That's how they usually do it, where like you get like the summon like when someone leaves a note in the game. It'll be like that little 3 like slashes on the ground.
Yeah.
But it's gold for when you can summon someone. I was expecting something like that, but I was like, okay. And so I dug in the menu because I remember he gave me a finger. So I was like, oh, maybe I've summoned him this way through the menu in the inventory. Still wasn't there. And so, yeah, I never would have thought that he was inside of the boss arena.
It was the exact same case for me. The only difference is at the end of that, I was like, I'm just going to look it up. And that's how I found out.
So you're a coward, I see.
Yeah, I am, in that case. Very weird to do. But like I said, that summon is worth it. I won't say anything beyond the fact that this is Elden Ring's version of Captain Ahab.
Oh shit!
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, but
I like it.
Oh yes, it's very cool. Beyond that, though, the bosses that you have yet to fight, I don't know how much you know about them.
I pulled up a list of like the main bosses for Shadow of the Erdtree. We've got Divine Dancing Lion, Rolanda the Twin Moon Knight, the Putrescent Knight.
Yes. Is that a... oh, yeah, I guess.
Is that the one that rides the boar?
No. So the Putrescent Knight is something that you find in an area in the Cerulean Coast. A little, do you remember... You would find them by getting to a place called the Fissure. Did you ever find the Fissure?
Oh, okay. So I did find the fissure, but it was blocked off.
Yes, that will change later on. Just go through the game normally. He's in that area. Very an annoying boss fight. The one you're thinking of, Commander Gaius. I was playing that boss. Yes, I was playing that boss. That's actually one of the bigger criticisms I can have of this game because he's not a good boss. A lot of people are having trouble with him. They might say it's because it's difficult, but this is where you really see the issue with some of the systems that can be improved upon, which is why it's one of the other reasons why I'm looking so forward to the next FromSoft game. Because it's one that really, it's best fought on horseback. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, a lot of bosses, when you fight them on horseback, is a matter of just doing hit and runs against them. This one isn't really any different, but the boss seems to require more from you to engage with it more. But the limited moveset of the horse, of the Torrent, just makes the boss fight feel very clunky. The fact that you're having to fight on your horse and manage 2 life bars, your own and the horse, really messes up the pacing of the boss fight. And once again, with the way he operates, it makes it seem like they were supposed to have more depth in the horse combat to have the kind of boss that he was. And without that depth, he just came across as extremely annoying, getting hit by things that in some cases I was like, I can't dodge that. I just get hit by it, which is always a feels bad moment, especially with how often it happened with a lot of his attacks. It just didn't work with what Elden Ring is and at its current form, and as FromSoft games are at their current form. So even though it's nice to know that they'll probably improve upon that in subsequent titles, whatever those might be, it really was felt in that boss fight. And I'm happy to say that after I beat it, other people were having a lot of problems with it, so I didn't feel like I was just sucking. I'm vindicated.
Right before Commander Gaius, you've got Mesmer the Impaler.
I fought them out of order.
Did you?
I did. Mesmer, sick ass boss fight, and also I would have to say in terms of the main bosses, the easiest. I don't know if that's just me being an outlier or what, but I was surprised at that because he's the guy who you were building up to. And
I haven't heard that much. Like as far as it being like super hard. For Mesmer. I did also before the DLC came out. I do remember hearing that Mesmer is the guy that impelled all the giants in like the fire giant area in the original in the base game.
Very possible, never confirmed. Which
not confirmed? I thought that was the case.
It might be, but I might have just missed something in that regard. Oh, okay. Since you mentioned that now, there are FromSoft games are obviously known for lore. This one, in terms of like a story, Elden Ring has done more than past FromSoft games. This DLC, I think, even more so. But it contextualizes some things from the main game, particularly regarding Marika. There's a whole hidden area. You might have to look it up. It's locked behind a emote that you have to do in front of a statue. And it's not a big area it leads to, but
I do know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
In the base game, right?
No, in the main. Well, there is an emote that you do to a statue for lore purposes, but in this case, it's something that gets you to a new area, a small area, but an area.
In the DLC or in the
DLC?
Game?
In the DLC, related to an area. In the original, based off just like story stuff.
Gotcha. I thought you were talking about the spell of like transfiguration or something like that you had to do in front of that statue to confirm that Marika is Radagon.
Yes, it's based off that same principle. It's just like I said, it does an area instead of a lore bit.
Gotcha.
And it similar to the Cerulean Coast, just kind of makes you sit there and like.
Is it literally an emote or is it like one of those like talking things?
Oh no, it's an emote.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you right now and everyone else because it is like I had to look it up. I would have put 2 and 2 together if I had found the emote, but the problem is it's so out of the way that it's easy to miss. It's the "Oh Mother" emote. Once again, it makes total sense within the confines of where you're supposed to do it because they leave a little message that has that phrase in it, but it's really an issue of finding the emote in the first place.
I think I found that message. Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's before the Commander Gaius fight, for all of those that, don't want to waste time looking it up. And I point all this out because the moment that it leads to is so good, and it's paired with music that just hits. It really creates a great sense of atmosphere, which I hope they do even more so in the future.
I've definitely found a few of those like dev messages, like where it's actually like an actual like hint to something, not like somebody just trolling, like try finger butthole or whatever.
No,
or,
not like that.
The one that's more recent for this DLC is like I'm going home into Edge or something like that.
Oh yeah, like well, it's like I can't take. I want to go home and Edge. That's how it goes.
Exactly.
Then Edge or something like that.
Yeah. Then we got, after Commander Gaius, you got the Shadow Tree avatar,
and
which I assume is just like the avatars from the base game.
I will say,
instead of Erdtree avatar, it's a Shadow Tree avatar.
In terms of name, yeah. In terms of the boss itself, no. In fact,
Okay.
I it's not one that's talked about because it doesn't have. It hasn't been talked about up until this point, but now that some time has passed, I've started to see people say how that's one of the best bosses in the DLC because it's like a classic FromSoft fight. And in fact, I take it back. It's the easiest boss. No, it's not the easiest boss. They're comparable to Mesmer in my eyes, but it's a nice classic like feeling FromSoft boss. It doesn't do any cheap bullshit stuff. There's never a point where you're like, that's dumb. I was just like, yep, I got. Nothing to blame but myself. Very cool boss fight in that case. Go to the next one because I think I know what it is.
Yeah. Meter, Mother of Fingers.
Oh, it goes to that one next.
That's what it says.
That's the thing about Elden Ring's DLC is that you just find stuff, but in unconventional ways. It's all connected to a quest. It's a lot more easy to understand. A guy gives you an item, says to go to these types of locations. You go to them. You understand what to do pretty quickly. But you do that, and it leads to that fight. It's a nice fight. It's more interesting for lore reasons, but other than that, it's not one that really sticks in your mind all that much.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
After that, we've got Romina, Saint of the Bud.
Cool boss fight. Nice boss fight. Not one of the keys.
This is one that I don't think I've seen.
No. Yeah, I'm interested for you to see what you think of these boss fights because, all of them are good. Not a single one is bad. That's not true. Commander Gaius is not good just because of the systems themselves, but pretty good all in all with how many bosses you have. And you haven't even named all of them. There's 2 other ones of the main bosses.
There's
3.
There's Midra, Lord of Frenzy Flame.
Have you seen? Wait, stop. Have you read past that?
I know who the final boss is.
Do you know the second to final boss?
The second to final boss?
Yeah.
Don't do it. Bail the Dread.
Oh, shit. Don't look any further than that. Just do yourself a favor. Viewers, even though this is the spoiler part, do yourself a favor. Don't look that up. That's probably one of the best fights in the DLC. I'll go through the... you know what? Just to put a pause on bosses for now, because I don't want to have the chance of you spoiling that, because it's such a cool boss fight that... that aside... that there's another boss that's connected to an area that is hidden behind an illusionary wall. And it's another one of those moments where you just have the game open up to you. And you go, when is this going to end? Not in a bad way, but in a way where you're kind of hoping there's more beyond what you're already, secretly finding out about. And it's an area that has a unique feature of where it's an enemy you can't fight. And so you have to do a little bit of stealth. Not particularly hard stealth, but it's nice that they're trying to experiment with new things rather than just going through the enemy and using the skills that you've gained throughout the game and your, sorceries and whatnot to take out whatever enemy's being thrown your way. It once again makes me interested to see what Elden Ring and what FromSoft is going to do with future games. It's kind of weird. I'll go back to the cons because it seems like some good things were established with Sekiro that weren't capitalized off of in Elden Ring, particularly things like the jump. A lot of attacks that seemingly should be responded with a jump to kind of create that extra level of gameplay, it doesn't actually add it. You can jump, you'll still get hit by some attacks, and unfortunately, some bosses, like the final boss, bosses like, to a lesser degree, the one that you find in the area that I'm referring to, I'll say the name, it's called the Abyssal Woods. It doesn't make much use of movement, as much as it should, based off the fact that they had already experimented with that stuff in Sekiro. And I'm hoping, once again, those things are improved in subsequent games. A lot of the issues I have with Elden Ring's DLC are really just things that can be expounded upon later down the line. So rather than really being a big issue, it's more making me excited for the future. Yeah, this DLC is just fantastic.
It's really good. I guess that's a good place to go ahead and start wrapping it up. Do you have anything else you want to say, Connor?
No. I think I've covered my bases for now, at least.
Well, all right. Of course, make sure to drop in the comments and let us know what you thought about this Elden Ring DLC if you've been playing it. A lot of people have been playing it, so it's kind of crazy. I think this is definitely one of the biggest releases of this year, considering how huge Elden Ring was when it came out 2 years ago. I know people have just been clamoring and chomping at the bit for this DLC. So I want to say, like, I don't remember ever seeing any numbers for like percentages of the base game players converting to the DLC and continuing on that way, but I imagine it's pretty high.
The whole thing that was talked about beforehand was that like they didn't get to Mog, the boss that you have to, the final boss, the furthest boss you have to beat to access the DLC. At the time on Steam, only 30% of players had gotten to that point, so not a lot, not as much as you would think.
Very strange. Yeah, that's kind of crazy.
I know. You think? I mean,
what's weird is you know how in the base game you fight Mog in like the Blood Palace, right? The Mogwin Palace. I fought that version of Mog before the one that's like under the king, like what is it called? What's it called?
The sewers, the kingdom sewers,
something like that. Yeah.
Cisterns. But same way, I fought that boss beforehand, and I was like, oh, that was weird, not knowing he was coming down the
like
line.
some aspects of the one in the sewers was actually like harder than the main, like the actual boss.
I agree. It was the space, I think, for me. It just was hard to
how enclosed you were.
Yeah, and he has such large sweeping attacks, and his blood attacks are very strange. They have weird hitboxes, so it's hard to deal with. Did you have more problems with him than final version?
In some ways,
ways,
okay. But like I think I don't remember exactly. It's been so long, since I've played that boss for the first time that I couldn't tell you exactly how many tries it took, but it was probably like over 10 for me to meet the original one, the one in Mogwin Palace. I don't remember. I think it was probably within 5, the one under the in the sewers there.
I fought more than that.
But anyway, yeah, right. But anyway, I've fought some of these bosses in the DLC more time. Like I've attempted them more times than some of the bosses in the original.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
On a ratio perspective, they're harder in general.
They're FromSoft went off the shits when designing these bosses for sure.
They do with their DLCs.
But let us know what like if you're breezing through it, let us know. If you're having trouble, let us know, and let us know what your favorite boss is in the comments as well. Connor, thank you so much for your insight and your FromSoft knowledge on this review. And let's go ahead and say goodbye.
Goodbye, and have a nice day.